Hello, guys. Today we have a very special interview guest with us. We have Ali Hivugaq, and she is a quantum guide. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you.
So, I would love to take this opportunity to ask you about the very journey of especially of a target. How do we, in our spiritual ascension, handle this specific problem? Like, for example, we have an opponent here, and this opponent is constantly working against us while we are trying to develop our consciousness, while we are trying to, ascend on the Hawkins scale, basically. So, how would you say, what is your best idea how we can tackle this problem? How can we not fall into feeling powerless when we are faced with that opponent, especially if we are faced with that opponent over many, many years, because this is a thing that doesn't end, right? So, how would you say, what is the best tip or the best advice you have where you can say that is a good thing that you did in your personal experience that helped you a lot?
Definitely, I'm going to say right from the very beginning was taking notice of my thoughts. That was one of the most important things, was taking notice of my thoughts and how I felt. My intuition, it was the first thing. And it was then I would start to notice that my intuition would ask for a little bit more. So it started then to become more of a meditation and more of a practice and really paying attention to my thoughts and knowing when they are intrusive, meaning it comes on suddenly. And there could be a sudden emotion that comes along with it, a sudden notice that there's something going on, and to pause and to just be on, just to observe and not to react. The most important thing is not to react. And because that's what the attack is. It's all about the mind, right? So when we're put into this fear state of being bullied, of being cornered, of being manipulated, of being lied to, of being just knowing that there's something happening that's out of sync, like it's not in, there's distortion in the energy field, and it's noticing that and taking stock, and as an energy worker and knowing your own what you're reading, that's really important because they're trying to confuse you, right? So this is confusion and panic that's coming in. So it's very important to notice that within yourself. This is where it's important to do the core wound work, because that's where they attack, where you feel bullied, you feel isolated, you feel alone and unloved, all of these base core lower chakra energies, which is what the opponent is always after, right? This is why so many of us who are neurodivergent have so many traumatic and very life-altering childhood experiences. So it's very important that we notice that, and we know that we're working in the quantum, and to pull yourself back in. So even intrusiveness like this, like with construction or anything, like, can you pull yourself back in?
Do you think that these beings can get much more, let's say the word loose, out of a neurodivergent individual than they could out of a neurotypical?
Oh, definitely. We have an incredible, vast access to imagination and to the quantum realm and to other things. And access to that is incredible. So this is why we're targeted. Like, because we're unable, they're trying to figure out how we operate, right? Why is it that we can't? And so they're always testing and trying to figure out. That's why we're such an interesting test subject for them, because they're trying to learn from us. Why is it that they can't do what we can do? Right. So it's for them then to access our fear, because they've been watching us, right? And it's all in our astrology as well. So it's important to know yourself and to know where these parts are within yourself, to know where your strengths are, because we're quantum neurodivergent beings, and we are able to access different parts of ourselves because we exist in the multiverse, right? So they want to know, how is it that we can do that? So when they access our fear, They stop us from our progression. That's why, thankfully, we are all spread out, seeds that we are.
Do you think that we are already blacklisted before birth?
I don't know necessarily about the word blacklisted. I think that we're marked. We're
Yes,
definitely marked.
definitely before we
And
are
they're
born.
very aware. Oh, very aware of where we
Mm.
are. Because everything repeats, right? So they're
Mm.
also, so if we're able to see in the quantum and see what's happening and knowing who's going to have which baby or whose energy frequency comes from which bloodline, of course, we that interference can happen. And it's all about the unseen realms, right? And it's all about knowing, just knowing what we know.
What part of our astrology chart do we first have to look at if we want to find out why and how we are targeted?
Your first house is extreme. Your first house, your fifth house, and your ninth house. And I'm going to say I'm almost 100% that is correct. Your first house, your fifth house, and your ninth house. And the reasons of that, because that's the Holy Trinity of the soul, the mind, body, and soul. So it's that connection that we need to have. So when we look at that within our own astrology, within our own houses, there's a whole history in there. And then the other thing that we look at is our South Node. What is it that we've learned in a particular chapter or a lifetime or a cycle or a season? And then we look at our North Node, and that's what we're stepping into as a result of doing the work of your mind, body, and spirit, right? That connection of the Holy Trinity. And that is as a master alchemist and someone who's neurodivergent. Once we can access that and maintain and solidify that and become more solid in remembering who we are on the quantum as a cosmic being and how we are affected emotionally by our interpersonal relationships, because that's where the karmic lessons are learned. And that's where the unseen moves many, many lessons of karma. That's why we have these very traumatic beginnings. Now, we also have bloodlines of, because we exist on soul level, right? So all of this is interwoven into this incredible dimension and conversation that we're having. And those who are here for this, I sure hope that you're excited about this stuff. Woo! It sure is fun. Getting to know your cosmic self, right? And why you're here. And then you get to know why it is that they're targeting you and where they can affect you. So where's your Gemini? So look at where your Gemini placement is. Uranus, because now there's a huge surge in communication, right? So what's going on in the how with Uranus? Where does that, for you? So that's how we really get to know, one, how we communicate. And when you've done the work in the body to work on those energy fields that are diet related, trauma related, that we weren't able to like move out in our fascia, right? So all of that is contained in our body. And so often we're sluggish, right? So our environment is part of that. And so we need to realize that. So this is taking control of your mind, body, and spirit, right? By taking control of something. And for me, I needed to take control of my mind.
I would like to go more into this astrology thing because
Yeah.
I look at my chart right now, and for example, I see the first house. I see that there are two planets there, and I also see what zodiac sign is governing the first house. But how do I connect the dots?
Well, it has to do with your identity. Oh, I have some incredible cards here I'm going to bring out just to assist with this because I had to break it down for myself. Like, there's so much information out there that it really needs to be, especially as a quantum person with ADHD, like we take information in this way, right? So it's important that we take a look at these different parts of our houses. And so our first house has to do with our identity and how we see ourselves, right? Our appearance, how we feel about ourselves, right? So that's in the first house. It's our characteristics. And it's also our destiny in the making. So what is your first house? Out of curiosity, just because it's part of who you are, right? Like this is your first house. You're a cosmic divine being, right? Like, and we're a stranger in a strange land, and we're trying to find a home somewhere, right? We're cosmic divine beings, and we all have a destiny. So it's important to know what it is that we're working with. right? And so that's where our ascending sign is extremely important. And then in our third house, we talk, oh, what is it? Yeah, the third house is all about communication. It's Gemini, right? And it's all about communication, and it's all about social media. So this is where Uranus is making this beautiful transit. So what's going on in your third house, right? This is what we ask, because this also has to do with memories, rumors, siblings, right? All about communication, interpersonal relationships, right? So this is like another house that we're looking at. And then in our ninth house, we're looking at religion. We're looking at Jupiter. We're looking at the religion of self. We're looking at ourselves within all of this. How does this apply? Right? So this is all within the core of who we think we are. And this is also what they look at. So what they're also looking at is your human design, right? They have access to other places and other kinds of information that they're applying, right? And they're also, so they've managed to see through certain unseen realms that most of us have not been taught. That's why it's really important that we start talking about this more in a scientific kind of straight approach, plain language kind of way, and not have it all be like hidden behind all this like this hidden stuff that's all secretive, because we need to take control of this, because it's sovereignty of self, right? It's sovereignty of our soul. And that's mind, body, and soul. And that's the Holy Trinity. And when we have that, we're then able to start making decisions as it relates to finances and love, which is a lot where we're mostly affected, because that's the lower chakra realms that they operate in, right? So we end up in all these lessons, but also realizing the harmony and the game of it all, the cosmic game. It's important to laugh at it. It's to get to the point where you can laugh. I mean, through the tears, of course, right?
I
But
agree.
you need to have to laugh at it. And that's how we end up in this position of being a master alchemist, of being the magician and being the one who creates your own reality.
What would you say is the gift in all of this? Because I firmly believe that it's not only a curse. I mean, yes, it is a curse. Yes, it is hard. Yes, it is super, super lots of hardship. But where for you is the absolute blessing of all of this?
Is knowing I am complete. No matter where I am complete. These parts of me that I thought were disregarded, the disowned self of my own troubles and stories, right, that had been told to me over, and my experiences as well. So this is where the important element is really going in and doing that soul retrieval work and taking a look at really what is triggering you at that moment. Is it someone who's bullying you? Because we often stand up for justice, right? So we're surrounded by bullies. And then we're victimized to a point where we're, right? So it's really knowing yourself, to know that we're loved in all dimensions and realms and seen, and we're supported by our spiritual team, right? Like we're left alone in isolation and attacked, but somehow we've always made it through. And there's something new that happens, right? So we've made it through different seasons of our lives of lessons that the universe, because we are cosmic, we are one, right? So there's there's something in there that we need to recognize, where our karmic lessons and those who have taught them to us also want us to succeed in some way as well.
Do you think that theory might be true? Because I have a strong feeling that it is so, but it doesn't have to be true. I have a feeling that by carrying this load, I also make it easier for people who come after me in my bloodline. Like when I look at how much hardship the people before me have gone through, which is really extreme, and I look at what I go through now, I really have the feeling that we make it easier for later generations to come.
That's exactly right. And that's why we are brought here. And that's why we change our own DNA, because we change our cells, right? Everything can be regenerated. And it's the stories that we tell ourselves. And it changes everything within our bodies. And then any children that we have, that core memory, because everything is epigenetics. So that strength is also passed down. Keep that in mind, right? Our nature over our nurture, and everything that we do affects the next 7 generations. This is why the children are so important, and this is why the children are being targeted, and the women as well, because they hold the eggs. And this is why the big shift is happening. Recognizing this, and this is universal order. This is cosmic law.
When you look back onto your life and you know now that you are a target and you look back on your life, you suddenly see things that actually seem totally strange. And then you look at them from another angle and you realize that is actually something that has to have a connection to that. Like, for example, for me, it was when I was about 3, 4 years old. We were in a pyramid. This was a huge pyramid, a glass pyramid, and inside was a kind of a public bath, like, you know, with pools and stuff like that, inside of that glass pyramid. And somebody shoved me into the water and I almost drowned because I didn't have any floaties on. So, and somebody just shoved me. And when I look back now, I think like, why did somebody try to obviously drown me? Because, you know, a 3-year-old child without any floaties, you wouldn't shove that child into the pool, right? Into a deep pool. Nobody who would do that. So I thought that must have been like one of their first tries to actually get me inside a pyramid and maybe make a little sacrifice out of me there. Because it was such a strange thing. I would never come to this idea, you know, to shove a 3-year-old child without floaties into a pool. So what in your life is such a memory that you have that literally makes no sense if you think about it, but which is probably related to the whole thing? Is there anything, some funny, interesting episode that you can tell from your life?
I know, wow. There's many things my human mind is like going, oh boy, there's a good one. But I think it's a humorous one. Well, you know, when I look back on it now, I definitely see something in it. Now, whether or not anyone else will see the humor in it yet, they still have to catch up to that. I've noticed and have observed being in a situation of being almost like a karmic individual. And from childhood, I'm not 100% certain. I have very many gaps in my childhood. But I do have some wonderful memories of being with other child alchemists and seeing things through that world and through that lens. I think maybe when you know, you see the humor in it. Now you're talking about like an almost, you know, baptism. And yeah, I'm going to say that. I look at it now and I had a situation in which I'm going to say it's just baptism by fire. And that has been my whole life. And I'm going to say for your situation that you have experienced there, that is a sink or swim on a spiritual level. And do you have it, like, and your spiritual team stepping in? Because you were in a holy pyramid and you are baptized, sister. You were being put into the water and seen by the Most High. Like, keep that in mind. That's another lens to see that in. And as a quantum person who sees things, because I work with a lot of the energies of Ma'at and they come through very clearly. And this is the cosmic humor of it all. And it's dark, it's dense, it's very, very bitter, it's very, very dark. And are you able to see that? Right. So when I say, yeah, like I've had situations where I see the humor in it now where individuals had done certain things to me as a sacrifice as well. But knowing that I had been marked beforehand by the Most High and by Source for my purpose, I see the humor in it now because the apology came after the individual had transitioned to the other realm where they apologized. So there is justice, right? So when the occult and when the unseen and the dark forces that try to use their powers against those who are chosen, recognize that you are being divinely protected and that there are events in your life that when we can step out of the emotion and the situation of the distress of being a 3-year-old being put in that situation and look at it from the cosmic end of it, baptism.
I can remember that situation very clearly. And back then, when you are so little, you are actually almost
Mhm.
closer to the other realm than you are to this physical. So basically, for me, I was totally like, oh, it's already over. I thought this was longer. Oh, no problem. I'm going back home. I was basically on the inside, I was totally happy and no problem at all, as if this whole thing between here and there was, just a little door, not even a door, something more fluid. Yeah. So
Good.
for me, it was no
So you
problem at
see,
all.
yeah,
And I didn't
good.
experience or something.
It's important to hold on to that story. Sister, it's important to hold on to that story, right? Because that's like a near-death experience, right? And these are where we enter the portals into the other realms of the unseen. And what do we take back from that? And which lens in which do we view it? Do we view it in the lens of the human, of the personality, of the ego, hurt? Or do we view it from the other lens? And what has it taught me about myself and why? Why is it important? Why did they target me? Because they'll fill your head with all kinds of stories of nonsense, right? So you need to claw back your own sense of self and who you truly are, seen in the Most High's as you, also as the Most High, the cosmic game, haha, of life on planet Earth, Earth School.
I have a concept of the whole thing. Let me know what you think about it. So, my concept is basically the universe is absolutely benevolent and God loves us, and every child of God is equally important and everything. But the Earth School is like a playground that has been hijacked. So, the playground was actually meant for you to play, for you to try out different things. Um, but the playground was hijacked by bullies, and the bullies basically said, "Okay, this is our playground now. We make our little mafia thing out of that, and we will just collect all the loot and whatever." So basically, I have the theory that this hardship or this time of the bullies owning the playground is ending now because the Mayas said, listen, the Kali Yuga is ending. We're going now into the transition phase, into the golden age. So basically, my theory is that they will have to give up. The bullies will have to give up this playground and give it back to God where it actually belongs, to have it as a normal, funny, nice little playground. So not so much about suffering and torture anymore. So that is my
Mhm.
theory. And when it comes to timelines or to timing better, then my theory is that the transition phase is between 2012 and 2034. About this time is transition phase. And then afterward, we slowly start to go into the golden age. Like, up until, let's say, in about 60, 70 years, it's going to be looking much better on this planet than it does now. That's my personal theory, how I look at it. Would you confirm certain things, or would you say I have a completely different view, or what is your take on that?
Well, I think that it's important to take a look at what your lens is and what your focus is. Like if we focus on the whole world, that's a really hard thing to deal with. If we recognize within our cosmic self that we are the universe and our own frequency affects matter and the world in which we operate and how we converse with the people around ourselves, it's what we consume, it's what we're all about. So are we able to create this heaven on earth within even our own minds? And that's where it begins as a master alchemist, right? So the timelines of things, I think, are sometimes it can be unsettling for the major part of the humanity that will listen to this message and find it unsettling and far off and something that they are not able to actualize within themselves. And it's important that they recognize that they themselves are a part of this cosmic unfolding, and that they themselves are a part of this consciousness shift that needs to happen. Now, those timelines are suggestions. Everything's a suggestion. Um, and when there's enough minds that come together who are master alchemists and who are strategically placed and trusting and knowing that everything is unfolding as it needs to. And when we have to keep in mind, people have their own soul's contracts. Some souls are not meant to be going into that other realm, into that next part, right? Necessarily in a human form. So, like, it's, I think that it's going to be very difficult. And I think that people shouldn't kid themselves about how changes are going to be very dramatic. And there's going to be a lot of shifts and pivots and a lot of faith that needs to be examined. And where do you put your trust? Right. And knowing that everything is unfolding, but also keeping in mind that your soul never dies. Right. And that's where people are ending up in the whole sense of panic, because they haven't been given the authority to recognize that they can themselves take control of their lives and where their thoughts go. So this can, and this is also the beautiful part is that there's enough resources and star seeds like ourselves and those who are on missions, those who come from different places and are in different places and in different placements as well within strategically needed spaces, are all themselves coming into their own realization of how they can participate in making this change happen in terms of redistribution of wealth and assets, and going back to the principles of the principalities of what humanity is.
As we only have 10 minutes left, I would like to ask one question because you were talking about control and what is in our control and what is not in our control. So I believe that this here is a co-manifestation. So if I manifest for myself that I get $10 million in the lottery, but let's say my mother, my father, my grandfather, and my niece are maybe manifesting for me that I am poor and that I have nothing. Then basically, I mean, there are 4 or 5 people manifesting against me, and me just being me, manifesting for myself. Where do you see is the power struggle, the power game? Would that outnumber me, or would you say, Tania is backed by her spirit guides and by her ancestors and by God, so she has more of a manifestation power here?
Oh, absolutely. That's absolutely right. And this is where we go back into your ninth house, where you have your spirituality, right? This is the religion of yourself. This is the philosophy of who you are. How do you create this, right? And when Jupiter, this is all about Jupiter. This is about wealth. This is a Venus energy. This is all like that, right? And knowing that they have no power over you. Remember that. They have no power over you. You are a cosmic divine being. They are operating within a much lower dimension. Why would we even pay attention to them? We're walking gods. Like, we need to remember that. We're walking gods. We know so much more. And the darker elements, they actually have no power over you at all in any which way, shape, or form, because the light always wins, right? Love. And just, there's nothing you can do about them just to cut them from your reality. Like, you need to understand and remember that, yeah, there's a lot of unseen, right? And they do work in darker elements, that's for sure. And they're trained to. And that's why they've taught you how to be a master manifester and to have everything timed and believe that the universe is, everything is timed for you to unfold exactly when it's meant to. So that's why it's good to take a look at your astrological chart and look at it as a cosmic, and not look at it as a Western, like, this is who I am and this is all basic pedestrian, like, newspaper stuff. Like, do a deep dive into who you are as a cosmic divine being and know who your spirit guides are.
Also, I wanted to ask because physically or geographically, at the moment, I cannot leave certain people who do this. But I still believe, even if I am geographically tied to them and I cannot get away physically, I still believe I have my protection always with me. Yeah. And that
Mhm.
there is no problem, even if you are physically still tied to that person. Let's say maybe you are married to an abusive husband and this husband is beating you or whatever, and you have no money and no job and nothing, you can't get out. Still, if you work, I'm absolutely 100% sure, if you do protection work, protection spells especially, cleaning your aura with salt, cleaning your house with sage, whatever you can do, whatever there is, I still believe this holds tremendous power, even if we can't go away physically.
That's right. I agree. I do as well. It's important to keep our own personal space and have a personal space for ourselves in our spiritual practice where we connect with ourselves. Very much so. And to know that you're always divinely protected, like you're creating a lattice work as a neurodivergent. It's important to put a lattice work around yourself because we work in the quantum. So they're always trying to feed off of us, right? So they'll try and touch us, they'll try and hug us and all of these things. So it's important to have this energy force field around you, remembering you're a Jedi.
Because you say the touching, for me, they went with tiny little needles, and these tiny little needles, you don't even feel them, especially if they do that in a place where there is a lot of fat tissue underneath the skin, and they go like boop,
Yeah.
and you don't even realize. You just have the feeling like something just is weird, But so it's like
Yeah.
tiny needles. Did you ever have that?
I have had experiences like that, and someone I know has had a really incredible experience with that as well. So that does happen. And then yes, because we're dealing with witchcraft, right? And the way that they attack is through the vessel. That's why it's important not to like to have something around you and really to ask your spiritual team to really keep an eye out that your physical vessel and your back is covered. This is why a lot of us, it's important that we walk with other people, right? We walk with other people and we have that protection. And we ask our spiritual team to show us and to like protect our vessel. It's the most important thing that we can do.
Fantastic. Okay, this is actually all I've got for today because I mean we still have 4 minutes left. Is there anything that
Yeah.
you really, really want to give as a final message for the video to the viewers? What would you tell the viewers?
I think that there is something about an illusion that is given to us, and we have a veil that's placed over our eyes, and it's definitely a real veil. And it's physically, it actually can occur that we see things in a particular way. So it's important to recognize that we are in an illusion, and that they have no power over you at all. And once we remember that and we keep working on that core strength within ourselves, with our spiritual team, with love, remembering that we're here for good, we're here for love, and that we are supported in all that we do, and that the Most High and the Pachamama, all of the energies and the frequencies that are changing for the divine feminine is real. So this is when there's going to be a lot of pushback, but know that all of this is shifting and changing. Astrologically, it's all there. So know that things are working in your favor at all times. And what did you learn about yourself? Because it's all about what did we learn, right? And am I holding on to this anger? Am I holding on to resentment? Because then, therefore, they have control over me, right? But when we become very just flow, we'll know when we need to rise up. And then we also know when we need to flow. So we know when we need to stand, and we know when we trust that, right? And we walk in truth and in light. It's the most important thing as someone who we're working with energy and that we're working with illusion. And master alchemists, like illusionists is what they're doing, right? And you are a master alchemist, and they have no power over you. So it's power over the mind. It
Wonderful.
really is, and a lot of love and compassion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I really appreciate this conversation and this opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here. I enjoyed talking to you. It was my pleasure.